Buenos dias. That's about the only words I can talk. Sorry, I can talk even louder with the microphone. So, buenos dias. I have to go on in English. I'm sorry, cannot talk your English, your language, except for some very special occasions, mainly around food and drinking. So, hope you can follow my English. If I'm too fast, let me know and interrupt me at any time. I would like to go back to the subject, which is the subject of the conference. It's storage and business continuity solutions, and would like to go through a little bit. It works of the backgrounds in data management, data storing, backup, disaster recovery. What is it? Why do things happen? How can we cope with them? The problem. So, and this is the agenda that I put together. What are the customer challenges? How do we achieve continuous availability? What is that compared high availability compared with disaster recovery? Because there's a lot of mixtures in people's ideas. We have to really keep things separate. And how do we achieve continuous availability with a thing called NETAPP Metro Cluster? I will only have one slide or two later on NETAPP and on Fujitsu, so I want to concentrate on the subject this time, really in depth. What's happening currently, everybody knows since several years all the world is in a financial crisis. People don't have the money that they used to have in former times. Cost cutting is everywhere. So as you see, the economic, must be some point here. Yeah, economic uncertainty has placed cost containment in the top of mind of executives. Everybody looks at cost efficiency, but must make sure that you adapt to changing business needs without having more risk and at the same time maintain the high levels of application availability. That's another thing. Maintaining application availability is becoming more and more important because most companies are somewhere on the internet. And there's a saying, the competition is just one click away. So if Amazon doesn't work, you go to another platform. If one of those platforms isn't working, you find another one. Everybody knows there is competition. So availability is becoming, at the same time as cost reduction and efficiency, more and more important, which is kind of, in German we would say Teufelskreis, devil's circle. So it's like kind of, how can we cope with that? What are the causes of downtime? There is some internal and external causes. Many people try to cope with the external sources, but most of the sources are internal. It's not flood or hurricane or fire or storm or whatever. Yes, all that happens as well, but the most important one is power failure. It's as easy as it is, but this is it, 42%. And then it is IT hardware failure still, although the hardware is getting more and more and more reliable. Network failure quite big, IT software, and human error. There's a lot of human error. So this is actually what's happening. And you can address these things in different ways. High availability, that's what we say is protecting against storage system failures. You have things like RAID 1, 0, 10, whatever. We have a thing called RAID DP, which means you have, for example, 14 disks in one shelf. 2 of them are parity disks. That means you have 12 data disks. This is more secure than a mirroring where you have 7 disks for data and 7 mirrored. Mathematically, it's more secure, and it is more secure, and gives you 5 disks more out of 14, which is nice to have. And it's as fast as a RAID 5 or a RAID 10. So typical enterprise storage systems employ a lot of internal resiliency to eliminate these single points of failure, like redundant controllers, redundant power supplies, redundant anything. RAID protection, so if 2 disks go down, we still can work. And 2 disks at the same time don't go down a lot, but it can happen that 1 disk goes down, and then you plug in a new disk, and what happens in the background is reconstructing the disk because the system knows, oh, no problem, we are safe, we have all these things saved somewhere, and then a second disk has just a read error. But controllers are very dumb, and they think the second disk has failed. That is why two-disk protection is important. It's not because two disks at the same time failing. One disk will fail, and the second may have just a read error. You're lost if you just have one disk protection. So please, whatever you do, go for two-disk protection. And then there's a lot of things like multipath connectivity. So we know how to cope with that. All the industry does it. That's what we call high availability. Regional disasters we can cope with by mirroring arrays. So we have one array. Array means now a number of disk shelves, two controllers, all the stuff that you need connected to servers. And you mirror that to another place, hopefully not in the same building, maybe not even in the same city, hopefully a little bit further away. So if an earthquake happens here, then this whole array may go down or flood or whatever, but this is still alive. So we would call it a regional disaster recovery site. But of course, there's a lot of additional costs, practically doubling the cost and more. You have additional software cost, double the storage capacity requirements. Management is quite not so easy because double storage administration, the consistency between here and there, something to discuss for hours, how to create the failover scripts if something happens here, and so on. So there are various solutions by various people, various competitors and suppliers in the storage area. If we are trying to define availability and disaster recovery, we say high availability refers to eliminating the business impact and downtime due to a hardware failure in a system, like using RAID, active controllers. Easy to do. Costs money, but that's state of the art, everybody does it. Continuous availability extends this HA, high availability, by giving protection from external events like power, cooling, network failures, anything. And this is where we have a thing called Metro Cluster, which is very unique. We will see very soon. No one else in the industry has this thing. Disaster recovery provides a resiliency of one site, protecting against failures that affect maybe a total data center. This is where we use a software called Snap Mirror, mirroring to another site. So Metro Cluster, this is the product that we use, and it is a piece of software. Of course, you need to have the hardware to run on it, but it is actually software. This is where the benefits come from. It provides continuous availability practically at 50% of the cost and complexity of the competition, because what we do, this is one system. It has two controllers, as everybody has, with a number of disks attached. We attach the disks we call it over cross. So this controller is attached to this disk set and to this one, and that controller is again connected with this one and with this one. So yes, you need to mirror the disks, of course. But what we can do, and this is unique, no one else can do it, we can take these two controllers apart. We can, instead of having them in one rack, we can put one here and one in the 21st floor. So if something happens in this room, and still it looks like one system, logically it's one system. We can even do that from here to another part of the city. We can do it from here to, not to Brasov because it's already too far, 100 kilometers away. We could do it to Brasov, it's 150 kilometers, but the latency becomes bigger because the speed of light is so slow. Everybody knows the latency, 150 kilometers back and forth means 1 millisecond latency. If you can cope with 1 millisecond, it's fine. We had some American friends who did not read the specs very well, and Americans are sometimes very funny guys because they have still these miles, gallons, and whatever you have. So it's non-metric system, and quite often it does not only happen to the NASA in space, but quite often they mix kilometers and miles. So they were looking at 100, said no problem, 100, and found out 100 miles, and it works. But of course the latency gets bigger. So no problem to this thing to work to the moon, but then you have a latency of about 8 seconds. That's it. So this is a great thing because you don't have to have one system here, which typically all the others have with two controllers, another system here with two controllers, and complicated software, making sure that this is synchronously connected. And this is what we do. It is synchronously connected, and it has a number of other benefits. It's very easy to use. Set it once, install and configure, it works. Very easy to administrate. I have some slide later on coming up. Manual failover is with a single command, so the system, you can configure the system to say, do you really want to fail over? And the administrator says yes, or you do it automatically with a number of intelligent, let's say, optional features. It's not application or operating system dependent. All changes to the primary storage are automatically mirrored. Actually, it's primary and primary because they are equal. It's not like a primary and a secondary system, which is secondary typically is less important. No, it is the same importance as the first one because it's one system. We just take these two controllers apart, everything else stays there. So, for example, if you look into any other storage vendor, let's say they have certain applications in certain volumes like running Exchange, Oracle, SharePoint, what else, and creating a new volume. So you create a LUN if you are in a SAN environment. And what else you have to do? You have to create a replica LUN here. You have to make sure that you set up the replication and then things start to work, hopefully. Much easier in NetApp. What we have is aggregate mirroring. That means we have an aggregate consists of a number, can be quite a big number of disks. Inside an aggregate, you can have volumes, so you create volumes. When we set up this thing called Metro Cluster, we simply say mirror this aggregate with that aggregate and anything which is in between. And mirroring means mirroring in both ways. And then, opala, I switched to the wrong button. So, and then, let's say if you start to create volumes, it will automatically create a volume there. Nothing else to do. So when the installation of Metro Cluster, we set up this aggregate mirroring, done. That is ease of use. And of course, you do not only do that for Oracle, Exchange, SharePoint. They want to run in a SAN environment, as we have seen here. Creating a LUN. LUN means we are in a SAN environment. In NetApp, you have the huge benefit, things which I've told in other events already. We have this thing called unified storage. We do not care if it's NAS or SAN, if it's CIFS files shares, if it is NFS file shares, it's iSCSI for maybe Exchange. Any volume, and we treat a LUN like a volume, will be protected in this way. So you don't have to have different systems because you have your files on a file sharing system and your SAN environment is on a SAN box and your iSCSI is on something else. This is real unified storage. And if you do things like you do a snapshot, I saw in the previous presentation somebody talking about snapshot, which is nice because snapshot is a NetApp product. It has a little TM over there, it has an R, it has patterns and also all of that stuff. So there is no such thing like snapshot on any other system. It's like you cannot buy Pepsi Cola from Coca-Cola. You know there would be war. So snapshot is NetApp. If somebody else calls it snapshot, it is not. And the snapshot in NetApp has the wonderful thing that it's part of the file system. It's not on top of the file system, which makes things slower. In NetApp, it's part. We cannot take it out, unfortunately, because I would love to get money for it. We don't charge for it. It's in there. And this makes it so fast. So you do a snapshot here, click, it's done here. Bingo. This is how things should work. So this is what people say, like Metro Cluster is fantastic, automates so much of the administrative burden that is a no-brainer to manage. It protects also against planned and unplanned downtime. So you can have non-disruptive upgrades to hardware and software. Check, yeah, it's fine. It has this automated failover option. So for example, if you need to do a planned upgrade, that means you take away this connection, you switch this piece for an upgrade, so you switch it offline, you replace it with something else. That's, by the way, a wonderful measure how we can upgrade the performance of a system, because maybe this controller is 2 or 3 years old, so you need more power because you have many more people running applications than you thought, you have attached another 50 servers or so. So you simply switch this thing off. This is still running. It says, oh, it's tough because I have to do twice the work, but I do it. And this system, you just plug in a new processor 3 times faster. Then you switch it on again, and it runs, and the system says, well, it's nice because this one is now faster, that's still slower. Now you do the same thing on the other side, run. You have not taken down the system in any way. You haven't done anything else but replacing processors. This is what we call ease of use. That's how it should be. So that's why we say very easy management. You don't have to do things like breaking a mirror, bring it online again, breaking a mirror, bring online for every volume, for every application that you have. No, because you have this one command, cluster failover, and here we go. Again, because we have this aggregate mirroring, so the whole set of maybe 50 disks as one aggregate, that's, you define it in the beginning, and that is what is being failed over. So very nice to do. This is again what some people say, NetApp Metro Cluster is custom tailored exactly to our needs, up and running for 30 months with 100% uptime. Our friends in Siemens in Germany, they run Exchange on some quite old systems by now. They run 5 years without any downtime. So 5 years is a lot. So I must agree. Normally it does not happen. But this is what you can see. And so, well, furthermore, it's not only the ease of use, the ease of setting up, but because we have this special construction, reading from here and there, you get an increase in read speed. So the read performance as well goes up. And we have measured a few of the NetApp systems. They are a few years old, but it happens on every system, like 25% on this one, 33% on this one, 55% here, 80% for random reads. So a great thing, because at the same time you speed up your system. So this is what we say, typically 50% less to acquire than any other solution coming from other companies. 50% less to operate it. You know, I've shown you, I think I could set it up. If the aggregate is there, then you create volumes, it's done. You don't need, so even a salesperson like me could do it. The configuration changes are automatically captured on both arrays. If there is a configuration, you do it here, then it's there, because it's synchronous mirroring. And in addition, what NetApp can do perfectly is deduplication. And deduplication is, I have to oppose the gentleman who was speaking before me. It's not for performance enhancements. No, it is just to save money, because it will kill the performance or it degrades the performance. There is no other way you can do deduplication. It's not enhancing performance. It is saving space. This is what deduplication does, because if you look at this thing, you have 6 by 6 blocks, 36 blocks, and you see that's only 4 different colors. That's what deduplication does. Having a file with 36 blocks before will reduce it to 4 blocks plus all the addresses. This would point to there and there and there. So yes, you have to know where it is, but an address is so much smaller than a block. That's what deduplication does. Saving space, but adding performance loss, or let's say decreasing the performance. So, and that is why most of the companies don't do it on a primary system, because it will kill the performance. We can do it on primary system, again, because we are simply lucky, like the guys who created NetApp and put snapshot inside the file system, made it in a way that deduplication works inside the file system. It's practically built in. For all the technical guys, ladies or guys here, if you ever look into the NetApp file system, you will find out, yeah, it's made for deduplication. We did not know it, because 20 years ago when NetApp was founded, the word deduplication did not exist, but it's there. So you have to be lucky sometimes. And this gives quite a number of savings, of course, 25 to 30% average in virtualization environments. This is world-class on NetApp, because we can save a lot. Why? Because what do you have in a VM? If you have 10 VMs, typically you have an operating system there plus data. The operating system, let's say Windows 7, your Windows 7 is the same as mine, except for your name is different, some settings maybe. So 10 gigabyte, let's assume, will differ by a few hundred K, maybe less. but 10 gigabyte and 10 gigabyte, and if you have 10 times 10 gigabyte of VM, deduplicating that, you go down to not 10 by 10, like 100, you go down to 10 plus a little bit. This is what deduplication does on virtual systems, on virtualized environments. Of course, data is different. If everybody has very different data, then the effect of deduplication is not so big. So it's very dependent on the type of data that people have. But VMware, Hyper-V from Microsoft, Citrix, VDIs, this is the perfect environment for NetApp with deduplication. And again, deduplication works on this metro cluster thing, on both sides, of course. So that's what I mentioned in the beginning. It offers a lot of flexibility because you can have it, as we say, in one, typically, you get it in one box or maybe two boxes because you want to take it apart later. But when a system comes, it's one rack with two controllers, and maybe one controller you say later on you want to shift it to another room. And that, going back once more, that means you can test all the possibilities with Metro Cluster just in your room as well, because it does not distinguish if this line is 2 meters or if it's 200. It works. So what we call Metro Cluster stretched or stretched Metro Cluster, you still can do that without having dark fiber switches and all the things in between, up to 500 meters. So it's typically good for a medium big company where you have your the first disaster recovery site a little bit further away. So if something happens in this room, hopefully it does not happen in the cellar or the other way around. And then if you need to and want to have it further away because the whole building could have some problem, or a plane crash or whatever, then that's what I mentioned before, up to 100 kilometers, and that's when you need a dark fiber here, fiber channel switches and so on. But again, that's the limitation which we say. If you want to do it to the moon and have 8 seconds latency, you can do it. So continuous availability within a single data center and across data centers in adjacent floors, buildings, metro areas. Support is not for all the NetApp products, not for the low-end entry-level products, but everything above that will support NetApp, Metro Cluster. And it's a perfect environment. I don't go into the details of this slide. For example, with VMware FT or VMware HA high availability. So a switch over, when you have VMware HA, something happens on one part of the system. And it automatically can switch over if you set it that way. So users don't even notice that something happened. We had one of my friends from Fujitsu in Austria. He is from Tyrol, which is in the left part, where we have a lot of snow currently. And he has a customer, and he told me they sold a NetApp system with Metro Cluster, VMware HA, and he always asked them, "Did you already test it?" And they said, "No, we are in production. We have no time to test it." That's the typical thing. You buy the thing, you have no time testing because you have to go on with work. And they have to do production. 1 month later, he asked them, "Did you test it?" "No, we have no time." And 3 months later, he asked them, and they said, "Yes, we tested it somehow because we had a power down and an outage, and it failed over, and it did work. And we found out by just having a real case, it works." So that is not the way you should do the testing. It's better you do it planned. But it worked. So they found out the hard way, but we're very happy. So again, people say with shared storage from NetApp, Metro Cluster, and server virtualization through VMware, reducing the amount of server and storage equipment, things like 40%. So great things. That's my talk about business continuity. Just a few words. Who is NetApp for those people who still don't know us? Well, we are currently the number 2, as we see in this slide. 2 worldwide in the networked, FAS means networked storage market. If you include some IBM numbers, because they also sell our systems, we are up to 18% now. So it's a clear second after EMC, and we are growing, as you see in this slide. So typically over 5 years, it's more than 20% per year. And last year was very good, so we continue because of the features that we told you. And finally, in Romania, we are not established as a company here. We do everything through Fujitsu. Fujitsu is our general distributor in Romania, and Fujitsu is a long partnership since 15 years nearly, 1980, 98, yeah. Locally in EMEA since 99. Fujitsu is our largest partner worldwide, so we do hundreds of millions of euros with Fujitsu every year, so and growing again very, very fast. And in 2009, we announced even a closer cooperation, go-to-market activities, defining joint architectures, flex frame solution for SAP environments, and for example, the BX400 blade server. It's the first and only system which has NetApp's operating system called ONTAP with NetApp Snapshot in a non-NetApp system. So that's totally unique. Nobody else is allowed to use our operating system because people would love to do that, except for Fujitsu. So Fujitsu is the distributor. We have two gentlemen here from Fujitsu, and through them we sell to resellers which sell to the end users. So I hope time is over. If you have any questions, let me know. Mulțumesc.
Întrebare?